Hey guys, welcome back to Movie Talk, here to talk about Uncharted. So, if I never played the games or even heard about the games, if I walked into this movie thinking that it's a spiritual successor to Nicolas Cage's National Treasure movies, I would think that this movie would be fine. It is very safe, but it's serviceable. I believe that people might like the action, and I also believe that people might like the interactions between Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. The small audience I was with, the kids really liked it, and the people who are older than me, they liked it. I'm pretty sure if my parents ever saw this, they would also like it. But if you're a fan of the games, if you played the games, you love the characters, you love the stories, there's a big chance that you're gonna get pissed off by this movie. It really pissed me the fuck off. I was so mad when by the time it was over. Wow. And yeah, you could argue, what do you expect? Movies based on video games, they tend to be bad. And also, did you not notice the casting? Did you not watch the trailers? Yes, I noticed about the casting. Yes, I watched the trailers. Yes, for the longest time, I thought this was going to be terrible. But here's the thing. I don't walk into movies wanting to hate it. I don't watch movies just to hate it. I watch movies to be entertained. That's all I was hoping for. That I want to be entertained, and also movies based on video games that I really like, I want them to be as faithful as possible and also make it entertaining. That's all I ask. It's not that hard. But my God, I ended up being right. It's still horrible. Oh my God. And here's the thing. I saw this movie for free because I upgraded my PS4 versions of Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy to the PS5 versions. And I only paid $10 to upgrade plus tax. So it's like $10.80 or something like that. So because of that, it gave me a ticket voucher to see the movie for free. But the only problem is, with this ticket voucher, is that you can only watch it in Regal Cinemas. So if you want to see it in an AMC theater or a Showcase theater or a Landmark or some other kind of theater that's not a Regal Cinemas, they won't accept the ticket voucher there. It's only for Regal Cinemas. You could argue maybe PlayStation is being cheap, or or it's just competition between the theaters or something like that. I don't know the behind the scenes, but unfortunately, that's how it is. So and I don't know how long the deal is. I totally forgot, but I think it should be for the next week or two. So if you wanted to upgrade your PS4 versions to the PS5 versions, and also get a free ticket that way, you can. Or if you buy the PS5 games, if you never played the PS4 versions, I believe you can also get the ticket too. It'll be sent to your email. I don't know how this movie is gonna do. All I know is that it's getting very, very bad reviews. So yeah, Tom Holland as Nathan Drake and Mark Wahlberg as Sully. They are incredibly miscast. I don't buy their characters. I'll give Tom Holland this. At least it didn't seem like he was sleepwalking through it or anything. He actually gave it his all. And sometimes he nailed the mannerisms down. He nailed the mannerisms of Nathan Drake down. But every time he speaks, because his voice is very high-pitched, you don't buy that he is a 25-year-old Nathan Drake. In fact, you buy him as a 15-year-old cosplayer of Nathan Drake at a convention. That's what it felt like the entire time when I watched Tom Holland. And it's a shame because I can tell he is doing the best he can, but unfortunately, he was incredibly miscast. Mark Wahlberg as Sully. He is not Sully. He's just Mark Wahlberg. And here's the thing, I do like Mark Wahlberg, I do. And some of the jokes he said in this movie did make me chuckle. I'll admit that. But I did not buy him for a single second as Sully. In fact, I buy him more as the character he played from The Other Guys. That's it. So it didn't even matter that he eventually gets a mustache. He does not look like Sully. He does not act like Sully. He doesn't have the mannerisms down. So no, he was horrible as Sully. Actually, I think he would have been better as Nathan Drake. And that he was supposed to be Nathan for a long period of time. But then they decided to switch everything and have Tom Holland be Nathan. So I thought that was a terrible idea. Mark Wahlberg would have been better, honestly. We have two original characters for this movie. One is played by Antonio Banderas, and I totally forgot what the character's name, so he's really not remarkable, unfortunately. And I cannot speak much about Antonio Banderas because, he's not in the movie as much as you would think he would be, and I have to discuss more about him in the spoiler section. Tati Gabrielle plays a character named Joel Braddock, who is basically a combination of Nadine Ross from Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy and Navarro from Uncharted 1. She is a mercenary hired by Antonio Banderas, and her character is terrible. She sucks at her job. She always lets Nathan escape. She always lets Sully escape. After a while, I kept wondering why Antonio Banderas still has her employed. Like, she is terrible at her job. And I feel bad for the actress because I feel like she's going to get some hate thrown towards her, even though it's really not her fault. It's actually the writing for the character. So that's the thing. It's basically like a discount Nadine Ross, and it wasn't good. She's just a tough female mercenary, and that's the only interesting thing about her, and it's not good. She was really bad in this. The character, I mean. There are two characters from the games. One is Chloe Frazer, played by Sophia Ali, and I honestly thought that she was the best part of the movie. Like, honestly, this movie should have been about her instead of Nathan Drake. If this movie was like a one-to-one recreation of The Lost Legacy, I think it would have been much better. I liked her in it. Sophia Ali was very convincing as a young Chloe Frazer. And I don't want a sequel to this movie, but if they do, I do want to see her back at least because I thought she did a very good job. I hope that she gets another a leading role in an action movie. So I hope all works for her. And then we get Sam Drake. The character's not in it that much. He is talked a lot. He's been talked a lot in this movie, but he's not shown that much. He's only mostly in it for the beginning for like 3 to 5 minutes. And I thought the actor who portrayed him did fine. It was just serviceable. I don't think it's like remarkable or bad. But for what it was serviceable. He kind of looks like young Sam Drake from the games and even sounds a bit like him too. So I guess that's a positive. The other henchmen are really nothing. There's nothing interesting about any of the henchmen. So there's nobody like Eddie Raja in this game, or even someone similar to like Cutter. No, there's no one like that in these games, or even like Navarro even. Besides the Scottish guy, but that's basically it. So there's not really no one else that's impressive. The action sequences, I thought, because they were based on the action sequences from the games, I thought they were horrible, especially the plane sequence that was from Uncharted 3. They tried to make it more grand, but it just didn't look good. And I wouldn't say the CG is bad. It is definitely noticeable. I mean, obviously, it has to be CG. It's very impossible to do that practically anyway. But at the same time, it's just not fun. It's just not entertaining. To me, because I seen it in the game and it's just a terrible recreation of it. And obviously physics don't matter for this. The problem with the plane sequence for me is the fact that they showed it twice, because what they did, they showed off the first half of it as the beginning of this movie. The beginning of this movie starts off with Nathan Drake waking up because he got hit by the cargo, and he's waking up and he tries to get his foot off and he's trying to jump all the way back towards the plane before he gets hit by the car. So that's the first half of the plane sequence, and it's shown in the beginning. I hate it when movies do that. I hate it when movies show something that happens like halfway or during the third act or even in the finale for the beginning of the movie. Then they decide to go back to the past, and then you just have to wait until it catches up with that sequence. I hated it in John Wick, and I love John Wick. I hated it in that Blake Lively movie. What is it? The Rhythm section? I hate it when movies do that. Stop doing that. Okay, just let the movie play on its own. Ugh. And the finale with the ships. If you've seen the trailers, you know what I'm talking about, where two helicopters are flying these giant ships off the island, and Nathan Drake is swinging around like Tarzan with a gun, and he's shooting at the things, and people are trying to kill him at the same time. The idea sounds awesome. Don't get me wrong, the idea of this happening is awesome. The problem is the execution is terrible. And the thing is that because this movie is playing it so safe, there's really not much at stake because, yeah, people do die, but they die in more like comical ways instead of awesome or gruesome ways, you know? This movie never gets really dark. So, and yeah, I know it's a PG-13 movie, but it honestly feels more PG than PG-13. And if you played the games, you know that Nathan Drake killed thousands of people. Thousands! After a while, he even says, listen, guys, I killed so many of you. Why are you still hunting us? You're not paid enough for this, you know? You should know who I am by now. See, stuff like that. Nathan Drake killed thousands of people. Here, I guess he killed like 3? Intentionally. All the other ones were like accidents. So yeah, that was a problem. Like Nathan Drake finally gets a gun in the finale of this movie, but he doesn't really kill anyone with it. He misses all the time. So, and yeah, you could argue they never showed that Nathan had any gun training, so obviously he had to miss. But at the same time, why does that have to be a moment where he slowly puts on the holster and poses with the gun shooting at people, but he keeps missing? What's the point of that? You're trying to make it look badass, but it's not badass. I don't care if it's realistic that he never had gun training, so of course he would miss. What's the point of him being intimidating with a gun if he's terrible with it, you know? So that was a problem. The music was awful. Seriously, I could not believe the quality of this music. And here's the thing, usually even in terrible movies based on video games, the music is usually the highlight. Mostly because it's the music from the games. Like you hear the musical cues and you're like, oh, that's awesome. But here, no, they're all garbage. You do hear the Uncharted theme from time to time, but most of the times it's like some weird dubstep hybrid of the Uncharted theme, and it just sounded terrible. You do hear the Uncharted theme unaltered in the ending credits, but that's only in the ending credits. I'm talking about the entirety of the movie. But no, you do hear a quiet, slow version of it, which does sound nice when a certain cameo shows up. But other than that, the music is really, really bad. So there is like a kind of a fun puzzle sequence. But other than that, the action sequences did not impress me. There's not many action sequences anyway. And visually, it looks fine, but also looks boring and bland. They don't go to that many locations. New York City was spent. They spent like a third of the movie was spent in New York City, and that's boring, especially for a movie based on Uncharted. No one gives a shit about New York City in Uncharted. No one gives a shit of the United States of America in Uncharted. No, Uncharted is supposed to be Nathan Drake and company going to exotic lands, going to these ruins, talking about the history of what happened in these ruins and figuring out the puzzles, and also climbing so much, swinging so much, and also avoiding gunfire from the other mercenaries and also killing them too. That's the point of Uncharted. You don't have a lot of that in here. And that's a very big disappointment. This is a movie based on a video game. Then make it feel like a video game. Don't just think, oh, we gotta think of this like a realistic version of it, so everything has to be slow. No, It's based on a video game. Make it fun, make it entertaining, make it interesting. Come on! Oh man, I hate it when movies do it like that. So yeah, as an Uncharted fan, I really hate this movie. But like I said, if you don't know the games and you view it like a National Treasure movie, I think you would like it. And I can see people liking it. But for me, I hate it. I really do. And like I said, I don't want to go into a movie hating it. I wanted to be surprised. I had low expectations. All you had to do was surprise me. But no, it's actually it did surprise me. It was worse than I thought. So I have to talk about spoilers. Okay, so like I said, the beginning of this movie takes place with the plane sequence. It showed the first half of it where Nathan Drake wakes up from getting his foot stuck in the cargo, and he's trying to jump on top of these piles, and some people die because they get hit by the other cargo, and then he eventually gets on the plane, but he gets hit by the red car, which was driven by Chloe, and after that, he's still in the air spinning, then he grabs someone's arm. At the time, it seemed like it was Chloe's, but then it cuts to 15 years earlier, where Nathan is supposed to be 10 years old at this point, but honestly, he looks way older than 10. He looks like he's at least 15, so I thought that Nathan would be 30 in the present, but no, he's supposed to be 25. Yeah, this kid did not look 10 years old, so I don't understand. I don't know what the hell they were talking about. So, cut to 15 years ago where young Nathan Drake and young Sam were escaping from the orphanage, and they were going inside of a building to check up a map of Magellan because they heard of some of Magellan's ship, and they had some treasure, and they were lost, so they're trying to figure out where they are. And the two get caught, and Sam was told to leave the orphanage. So he leaves Nate behind, but before he did that, he tells Nate that, don't worry, I'll get back to you soon. I'll make sure I'll come back to you in the future. So he leaves him two things. One, a blank sheet of paper at first, and the sick Parvis Magno ring. Immediately, I was pissed. So at first, it seemed like this flashback is from Uncharted 4, where Nate and Sam are escaping the orphanage. But then they decide to combine it with the ring. If you played Uncharted 3, you know this is not how it's supposed to go down. Because in Uncharted 3, which the flashback in Uncharted 3, which takes place after the flashback with Nate and Sam escaping from the orphanage and changing their names because old woman died and the police were there, and they are worried that they could get caught. So Nathan Drake is in Colombia because he's trying to find Sir Francis Drake's treasure. So he finds a decipher and also a ring. And at the same time, Victor Sullivan was there. And Sully was working under Catherine Marlowe at that point, and Nathan steals the ring, and he was held up. He was about to get shot at gunpoint by one of Marlowe's guards, but Sully shot him and saved Nate, and they decide to team up together, and that's when Nathan Drake decided to come, and that's when, the ring was revealed because Nate stole it from Catherine Marlowe. That's how he got the ring, in Colombia. He never got it from Sam. Sam never got it. And obviously, they never got the ring in Boston. Yeah, the beginning of this, the flashback took place in Boston. Ugh. I mean, it makes sense because of the orphanage, but still, I don't like the fact that they're twisting the events around. Ugh. It's worse than abridging. They're changing everything. So in this case, Nate doesn't even know who Sully is, obviously, and Sam left him behind. And Sam gave him a letter that has no writing on it at first, but it turns out that Sam wrote in some like invisible ink or like lemon juice or something like that. So if you hold a heat source next to it, then the writing would show up. So yeah, that's what the beginning was for, because it's going to be very important later on in the movie. So it cuts to present day, but the weird thing about present day is it's not the present day, because you showed us the airplane sequence. But now you show us present day, but it's actually a few days before the plane sequence. So that's why it was so weird. Unless you're telling me Nathan was imagining the plane sequence in his head, or he foretold the future. But that's why'd you call it present day then if it's not the present day? So that's why I didn't understand that part. Anyway, it shows Nate working as a bartender in New York City. He was flirting with the girl who I was hoping was not supposed to be Elena, but it's weird because not only does she have blonde hair, but the way she looks and the way she acts kind of reminds me of Elena. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope that's not Elena. So he was flirting with her a bit, and he stole her bracelet. And when he was coming back inside the bar, Mark Wahlberg was there as Sully, and he stole the bracelet back. So yeah, like I said, they changed the meeting of Nate and Sully. Nate and Sully were supposed to meet in Colombia, but no, it's in a bar in frickin' New York City. So, Nate at first didn't want to work with Sully, but he ends up working with him because he hears about Sam. So, it turns out that Sam never visited him once for the last 15 years. Okay, but Sam keeps sending him postcards. These postcards are actually very important for the movie. So, Nate was reminiscing about that. He goes to his suitcase. There was like the Naughty Dog symbol, like a sticker of it on the suitcase, but it was very quick, so you could have easily missed it. I don't know if there's any other Uncharted references in the suitcase. I was trying to look for like the precursor egg from Jak and Daxter, because usually in the Uncharted games and also The Last of Us, the precursor egg, the precursor orb, is the Easter egg from Jak and Daxter, and it's usually in the games, but I don't think I saw that in the movie. Maybe it's there, but I didn't see it. They did show this weird shot where I guess it was meant to be in 3D, where Nate was throwing a baseball into the air and it was coming towards the camera and falls back down. I was like, what was the point of that shot? Is this movie supposed to be in 3D or something? So that's why it felt weird. I don't even know if there's a 3D showing of this. I saw a 2D showing of it, if there was a 3D showing, but I don't believe there's a 3D showing. Anyway, so he sees the postcards, he agrees to work with Sully, and then they check out this museum that's still in New York City, and they know that Antonio Banderas is trying to buy the crosses which they need to find the Magellan ships. So, there's this awful montage where Nate was doing research on the museum, doing research on the history of Magellan ships, and also history on Sully. Like they see like his record, criminal record and stuff like that. And during this time, he is shirtless, and they have to show him working out, like doing push-ups, doing pull-ups, and climbing a rope. And here's the thing: Tom Holland has a great body. I'm not. And I'm just saying, great work on the muscles. Seriously, he did fantastic. His muscles look excellent. My problem is this really necessary? Seriously, is it really necessary? Because if you played the games, Nate never showed his upper body. Like, he's never half naked. He's always wearing something. So that's why it felt weird to see shirtless Tom Holland about 3 times in the movie. And I'm trying to figure out why. What's the point of this? Besides, some people are going to swoon for him, and some people are going to say, Zendaya is such a lucky girl. So, Yeah, it was very unnecessary. And also the music, the song in the background was terrible. It was a terrible montage. So they set up this joke where Nate was texting Sully, and he said that he needs a suit, he needs a couple tools, and he needs a cat. So Sully's like, okay. So Nate gets the suit, he gets tools, and also Sully's like, hey, why do you need the cat? And Nate said, no, I don't need the cat. The cat's yours. You seem pretty lonely here. And Sully's like, wait, what? I don't want the cat. He's going to shit all over my floor. So the cat was used 3 times in this movie, and they're all jokes. And they are all terrible. So that was the first joke about the cat. So the two go into the museum, and Nate is supposed to be like inexperienced, so he never had like the earpiece before, so he keeps talking into it like this while showing off to others that he actually has an earpiece. They meet up with Braddock in the museum, and also Antonio Banderas, and it's basically like those common heists that you see in any of these heist movies, and again, it's not really interesting or unique, even though it should be because it's based on Uncharted. So, Sully is trying to be the distraction by trying to bid against Antonio Banderas, while Nate is trying to sabotage, like turn off the lights, shut down the power and everything to be a distraction, but he keeps getting his butt kicked by the Scottish henchman. And then they have to set up the first set piece where in the museum where Nate jumps off the balcony and he's holding on to like one of the light sculptures. And because he is heavy, the light sculpture is slowly falling towards the ground, and he's swinging across the room like Tarzan. And then he eventually falls to the ground. Unfortunately, it was not interesting. That would have been something that Jackie Chan would have done years ago. That honestly felt like a Jackie Chan stunt, but the way it looked, the way it was shot, it was not good. So, during this whole time, Sully managed to steal the cross, and at one point he was at a knife point actually by Braddock, and Braddock could have easily killed him right there and taken the cross for himself, but 3 security guards stopped her, and he Sully managed to walk away, even though Braddock, knocked all the security guards down, and she could have easily ran after Sully, but she didn't. So Sully grabbed the cross, and Nate managed to meet up with them in the limo, and they decide to go to Barcelona because Sully knows another person who has a cross. Antonio Banderas is pissed because his father wanted to give away their fortune, so he ends up talking with Braddock, and he's pissed off with Braddock because Sully and Nate managed to escape from her. So he's wondering, why the hell did I hire you? Even at that point, I thought that she doesn't deserve a second chance. She should have been fired at that point, but I guess he was desperate. I don't know. Anyway, so they cut to the plane ride towards Barcelona, and it's trying to do that Indiana Jones thing with the map, except it's supposed to be like modern, so it's a CGI plane that's on top of a CGI map. It just looked very goofy. So here's another part that pissed me off. So unless I missed something in the beginning, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. Sully gives Drake his journal. You know, the journal that Drake always constantly checks up, writes shit down, like he draws certain things, he writes down important stuff, he even writes down what he thinks and also what other people think and everything. You know, that journal that we've seen from Uncharted 1, 2, 3, 4, Lost Legacy, not Lost Legacy, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not sure about Golden Abyss, but I'm pretty sure it's there too. Yeah, that journal. Sully gave it to him. This sucks. Because in the games, Drake always had that. If you Again, in the Uncharted 3 flashback, right before Nate meets up with Sully, Nate always had that journal. So you're telling me that Sully gave him that? Sully was the one who put down all the information about the Magellan's treasures and shit? Sully was the one who did that, not Nate. So Nate was given that. Ugh, that was awful. No. I don't like that. I hate that change. So they meet up with Chloe, and Chloe doesn't trust Nate, and she doesn't trust Sully. And yeah, at this point, Sully and Chloe know each other, and she was the other person who has the cross. And now we have a very unnecessary chase scene where Chloe stole Nate's cross, and Nate has to run after her, doing all parkour and stuff. And again, you've seen it all before. Especially since if you've seen like the rooftop chases in like Mission Impossible, or even in the James Bond movies like Skyfall or Quantum of Solace, and those movies have done a better job. Here, it just looked like two kids trying to chase each other and trying to film a chase scene on top of rooftops, and it just doesn't look good. It just doesn't work. And magically, Sully managed to catch up with them, even though he keeps saying he has a bad leg, so he's very, very slow. He's way far behind, but he catches up with them within like 10 seconds anyway. So I'm like, what was the point of that? Unless you're telling me that he found a shortcut. So yeah, that foot chase was really unnecessary, because Chloe ends up working with them right after that anyway. So yeah, Nate confronts her in the car, and he was saying like, listen, you're gonna go to the wrong location. You won't go to the right one without my help, all that stuff. So she agrees. They all go to the church. So that chase was unnecessary. Did they add that in because they are worried that the movie would bore people? Because it's already boring me. Okay, so they go to the church because they see in the journal that it has the same symbol of the tree in the church. I will admit, there was a funny scene, there was a funny moment in the plane ride where Nate was talking about, we have to go find a tree. And Sully's like, we have to find a tree? Yep, we have to find a tree. I gave you the journal and that's all you come up with? Hey, you gave me like an hour. This is the best I could do. Oh yeah, do you know how many freaking trees there are in Barcelona? That part was a bit funny, I'll admit. But they end up finding the right church with the right location, and they read up more about the journal, so it turns out that they have to go to the basement of the church, and they press on this, pressed this button, and the Virgin Mary was moving a bit, so they checked her up. There's this really, really unnecessary moment where Sully was telling Nate to break the locks of this door because the Virgin Mary was right behind it. And Nate is like, hey, listen, don't disrespect the church. I'm not going to do that. I was like, what do you mean you're not going to do that? How else are you going to solve this puzzle? I thought the whole point of this is that you want to meet up with Sam. And you're telling me that you won't do this because you don't want to break the lock because it will disrespect the church? What? I did not understand that. And yeah, they have to mention Nate's fear of nuns. It's not like a horror movie joke or anything. It's just that he hates nuns because he was raised in an orphanage. They did that 3 times. Ugh. So there's this part where they have the 2 crosses, they put in the keyholes, and because they did it clockwise, well, that's counterclockwise to you guys, right? So clockwise, they did it clockwise. It turns out that it shoots out 2 bolts that could have easily killed them. And it turned out that Sully wasn't sure if it was clockwise or counterclockwise, so he just made a guess, and he said it was a 50-50. So they did it counterclockwise. And it worked. It opened the doorway, but it turns out the passage was talking about one has to stay in heaven, one has to stay in hell. So Sully decides to stay above while he has a GPS tracker on Nate, because Nate set it up with the app, and of course they have to have a Tinder joke in there. Ugh. So Nate set it up his GPS, and this is important. So Nate set up a GPS finder on Sully's phone so Sully can track Nate through his phone. Um, so while Sully is above, Nate and Chloe are below, and Nate almost got himself killed because he saw that there's an arrow symbol, and he tries to head there, but he accidentally pressed the button, set up a trap, and the spears almost killed him, so he decides to follow Chloe, and eventually they go to a place where there was a lot of loud music coming through it, and then they bash through the doorway, and it turns out that it's part of a nightclub, an underground nightclub. So, at this point, Braddock was tailing Sully as he's trying to figure out where Nate was heading, and her Scottish henchman was trying to track down Nate and Chloe in the nightclub. So the henchman fights off Nate, and it wasn't interesting. And Chloe managed to find another keyhole, so she opened the doorway, and they both snuck in. So, and then it cuts to Sully, and he's in a Papa John's, because apparently the other keyhole is over there. So, Nate and Chloe try to open the doorway, but it set up a trap because they needed the two crosses to open the two keyholes at the same time. So, because of that, they set up the trap, and water's rushing in, so it's flooding, and that would mean that Nate and Chloe would drown. So, Sully was trying to put the cross in the keyhole, but he gets stopped by Braddock, and Braddock was such a moron in this because, she's the one with the gun. She was far away, but she ends up getting her ass kicked by Sully. And it was a very uninteresting fight, and at the same time, Braddock is not good at her job. So Braddock and Sully know each other. So at first it seemed like they were kind of flirting, even though it's weird because Braddock is like half the age of Sully anyway. So it was really weird. And apparently they have a history together. So if Braddock is supposed to be like 25 years old and she has a history with Sully, how long have they really known each other then? And apparently they were in a relationship at one point, so that's why it was a little weird. Anyway, so she was fighting off Sully, and she gets her ass kicked. And here's the thing, Sully shows no hesitation in killing people. He would shoot people, he would push people off of buildings, off of boats, off of everything, so they could fall to their deaths. He's willing to do that, but he doesn't kill Braddock off. And I don't understand that. Because Braddock was going to be a bigger threat later on in the movie, and she's going to keep chasing him down anyway. Why doesn't he just kill her? I don't know. Maybe it's because he doesn't want to do it in Papa John's. I don't know. But he has an opportunity to kill her, but he doesn't. So he saves Nate and Chloe in time. He put the cross into the keyhole, and Chloe could have drowned because she had water in her lungs. But obviously, if you played the games, you know she wouldn't die right there anyway. If the movie had balls, she could have died right there. But again, I don't think anyone would like that anyway. So that's the problem with trying to raise the stakes in a movie like this based on a game that people know and love. So if you try to make it seem like Chloe could have died at that point, we all know that she would survive. But if you also killed her off, the movie would have balls, but also people would be pissed. So, it's a lose-lose situation for that. So Nate and Chloe managed to go into a room where it has 4 giant urns. And at the time, it reminds me of Prometheus, because it reminds me of the giant urns in Prometheus, where the stoner scientists went in there and they see black ooze oozing. So it looks similar to that, especially with the lighting. And Sully is on top. He's next to a fountain, and he sees a keyhole, and he turns it on. So it turns out that these urns, they eventually break, and they mostly contain salt. But one of them was actually hiding a updated map that Magellan had that shows the coordinates of the ships. So Chloe sees this and she betrays Nate. But before she runs off, she tells Nate that he shouldn't trust Sully at all. So she hits him with a gun, and he is unconscious. Sully eventually meets up with him. I don't know how he did that because he's not strong enough to lift the grate unless he finds another passageway. But again, it was never shown or anything. So he eventually meets up with Nate. He wakes him up. And Sully tells Nate the truth about Sam, that he and Sam were actually very close to finding the treasure, but during that time, Braddock managed to find them, and she shot Sam, and Sully said that Sam died. He saw Sam die, or he saw that Sam was getting shot, and he left them there. So here's the thing. Again, if you played the games, you know Sam is not dead. Obviously, he's not dead. So it's just a waste of our time with this information. So Nate is mad with Sully, so he wants to get away from him. And then it cuts to a scene with Antonio Banderas, Braddock, and also Chloe. But I gotta be honest, this is where I took my pee break. So I went to the bathroom. I came back within 2 minutes. So there's like 2 minutes of the movie that I did not see. So that was the last thing I noticed. That's when Antonio Banderas was talking with Chloe and Braddock. And then when I came back, it showed Nate talking to Sully. And Sully said that they know where the plane was going, so they have to go to the plane. So that's all I've seen. I'm not sure if I missed anything very important or missed a reference or anything, but like I said, I gotta be honest, I did miss 2 minutes of the movie. So, now we caught up to the plane sequence. So Antonio Banderas had to bring his red car because he said that it was a gift given to him by his father. Oh, wait, did I mention? I'm sorry, I've done this video many times. I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier. Antonio Banderas' father wants to give away his fortune, and Antonio Banderas is pissed off about that. So he told Braddock to kill him, and his father's dead. So yeah, he wants to bring his red car with him on the plane, and they have a bunch of cargo up there. So Nate and Sully decide to hitch a ride inside the red car the entire time. And it turns out they've been there for like 10 hours or something. So where did they pee? I'm not sure. How can you hold in your pee? Did they sleep for 10 hours? So again, there's some questions I have about that. They were stuck in the trunk for 10 hours. So Antonio Banderas gave the speech, like his villain speech, like his family lost everything and he wants to gain it back. But then he dies. Braddock slices his throat open. And honestly, I was surprised, but at the same time, I wasn't really, because he didn't seem like a very interesting villain anyway. It honestly felt like Braddock wanted revenge anyway and was going to be like Navarro from Uncharted 1, where she would end up being the main villain, and she does. So all the mercenaries that Antonio Banderas hired are still with her. So now Antonio Banderas is out of the picture. He doesn't show up again. He doesn't show up like a ghost or a figment of someone's imagination, and he's not a zombie or anything. He's dead. And this was right before the third act of the movie. So again, it was very surprising because you have a big name star like Antonio Banderas in your movie, and he's supposed to be a villain, but he's just dead. I hope he got a good paycheck because that was very disappointing. He's a more intimidating villain in the SpongeBob movie. So that was a problem. So now we have this plane sequence where, oh wait, no, we gotta talk about the stupid thing. So in this scene where Braddock slices Antonio Banderas' throat, Chloe was there. She was right there. She's right next to Braddock. So we have Antonio Banderas. Braddock just sliced his throat. And Chloe right here. And a whole bunch of mercenaries over here. They're staring at them the entire time. Magically, Chloe escaped. She's like Batman, except she doesn't need a smoke powder or anything. And it's weird because usually Batman, you know, escapes when people have their backs turned for a moment or something like that, or turns their face for a moment, and he's just magically gone. Yeah, except that she did that in front of them. And apparently no one noticed. So I was shocked about that. I was like, wait. There's no like hatch that's below her or anything. She doesn't like use smoke powder or anything. No, she escaped within their eyesight and they did not notice. How is that possible? So, the Braddock and the mercenaries are trying to figure out where Chloe is, and then they encounter Nate, and Nate wants revenge because Braddock, he thinks Braddock killed his brother. So he lets loose all the cargo. People are flying off the plane, and Sully grabbed the parachute, and he's one of the first ones to get out of the plane safely. And then we have Nate trying to be a badass, but he gets his foot caught in the cargo, so he was flung out, and he was unconscious for like a few seconds. And then the mercenaries managed to find Chloe somewhere in the plane. I don't know how were they not able to find her during that entire time, but now they magically found her. They didn't even explain where she was the entire time, but they found her. And then she has like a kind of a cool action sequence where she's shooting while sliding on top of the car, and she's she killed like at least 2 people right there. Then she gets in the car. Nate managed to get back onto the plane, and Chloe hits him with the car, and they both fly out of the car. And Nate managed to reach the car, talk with Chloe, and I'm not even sure how they were able to hear themselves since they were falling very, very quickly, so it should be loud as hell. So Chloe tells Nate that they have to get to the cargo because it has a parachute on it. So she goes to the cargo. He also goes to the cargo, and he's trying to open the parachute just like in Uncharted 3 when, he's trying to release the parachute. Yep. And I gotta admit, the sequence was kind of cool because it was like done in like one take. So yes, it is CG. A lot of it was CG. It's very hard to do this practically anyway, but a lot of it is CG. But I do appreciate that a lot of it was like a one long shot take, and it lasted for like almost a minute. So I gotta give the movie credit for that because it actually felt like a video game. I just wish that the movie was actually pretty good. So Chloe and Nate managed to survive that, and they were on this cargo, and they even said that they couldn't see anything, that there's water all around them, that is just nothing but ocean. Then, immediately, like within a few seconds, Chloe's like, hey Nate, are you seeing what I'm seeing? And Nate's like, holy shit. And it turns out that they were actually close to a tourist beach. Seriously, a bunch of people were there on the beach playing around and stuff, and I was like, how did you not see this? How did you not notice this? Especially from falling off an airplane. How long were you in the ocean? Seriously. Oh my God. Anyway, so they got on the beach, and then the cameo happens. Nolan North is in the movie. Nolan North is in the movie. If for some reason you don't know who he is the Nathan Drake from the games. He is the voice actor and the motion capture artist. You might as well just call him the actor for Nathan Drake. And yes, he's also the actor for David in the Last of Us game. And it's Nolan North. You should... I'm pretty sure if you play video games, you heard his voice somewhere, you know? He was also Superboy from the... Young Justice cartoon. He's also what was it? He's also one of the brothers, the siblings in the God of War 2016. No, God of War 2018. I'm sorry. He's one of the brothers that you fight. I forgot who it was though. But yeah, it's Nolan North. So Nolan North looks at Nate and he's like, oh my God, what the hell happened to you? And Nate's like, oh yeah, we fell off a plane and landed in the ocean and now we're on the beach. And Nolan's like, that happened to me once. And then that's it for Nolan North. And honestly, I would have preferred if the movie focused on Nolan North trying to relax on the beach for an hour and 30 minutes. I wouldn't mind watching the movie. It would be more interesting than seeing this. Oh man, and here's the thing, when you see Nolan North, you do hear the Uncharted theme, and it honestly looked and sounded nice, but after he's gone, you're like, I want that back. Go back to him. It's more interesting with him. Now we have Nate and Chloe, resting in the hotel room. They did not have sex together, but they did sleep in the same bed. So, and that's the thing, because that something happened in the mid credits, and I do have to talk about the relationship between Nate and Chloe for this. So we'll come back to this. So Nate and Chloe are trying to figure out what Sam was talking about with the postcard. So they realize that he left a message. And here's my problem with Nate. If he really loved his brother Sam that much, and if he knows his brother Sam all this time for 15 years, and he's been getting these postcards, why the hell didn't he not see if Sam left a secret message in the postcards? Because in the beginning of this movie, Nate knows that Sam leaves secret messages with invisible ink, and you have to use a heat source to, show the writing. He never did that at all for 15 years. So he lifted a postcard, and he realized Sam left him an invisible message. So he used the heat source, and boom, it tells him that the crosses were the key, that they're the compass. So because of that, Nate uses the crosses, both crosses, to put them together, and he sees the place on the map, and he has the coordinates. So I don't understand, if Nate really loved his brother Sam that much, why the hell didn't he do that for 15 years? I guess he just didn't care at that point? I don't know. I just did not buy that. He could have done this at any point, but he decided not to. So, Nate found the coordinates, and he was about to tell Chloe about it, but he decides not to because he believes that Chloe would betray him again and just leave without him. So he gave fake coordinates to Chloe, and he kept the real coordinates to himself. So Chloe did nothing for the finale. Nothing. She shows up again, yes, but she was late to everything. She didn't help out at all. So yeah, Chloe was just useless from this point on, and I was mad at the movie for that. Like, you have a very capable female badass, but you decide not to use her. What the hell, movie? So Nate decides to go on his own to these coordinates, and at the same time, Braddock and her men were around there. They witnessed Nate going into the cavern. They were around his location. So Nate went there by boat. He sees the underwater cavern. He swims underwater. He reaches the surface, and he finds the two ships. So the two ships were inside this giant cave, and he climbs on top of it, and he sees that the treasure was there, and Sully just happens to be there because he tracked Nate on his GPS. Oh, I forgot to mention this about the GPS. So remember I talked about the trap that was flooding in everything, so Nate and Chloe could drown inside that sewer? So apparently, I guess that phone that Nate had was waterproof because the GPS still worked for Sully during that time. Yeah, so that's the thing. Did Nate have a waterproof case for that cell phone? Is that cell phone waterproof? Are his pants waterproof? Is his pockets waterproof? Is it leak proof? Seriously, I'm surprised that his phone GPS could be activated underwater. So yeah, same thing here. Nate had his phone the entire time, and Sully was able to track him down with the GPS. So Sully managed to catch up with him, and Sully grabs some of the treasure, and Braddock and her men decide to manage to find the cavern, and they decide to lift the ships up via two giant helicopters. And during this time, Sully and Nate decide to cuddle together so they could hide but then they realize they have to fight their way out of it. So Sully managed to climb all the way to the helicopter to basically kill the two pilots. Yeah, he threw the pilots off the helicopter, basically to their deaths. So again, he's okay with killing people, but I guess, he just didn't want to kill Braddock. So he's flying the helicopter. So they took command of the ship. There is a sword fight between Sully and two henchmen and Nathan Drake as well. So they were fighting each other with swords, but it was not cool. It was not interesting. It should have been, because it should bring up feelings like Pirates of the Caribbean, or at least the sword fight from Uncharted 4, the final fight against Wraith. But no, it's nothing like that. It's not even interesting. So that was a giant problem. So at this time, Sully and Nate commandeered the ship and the helicopter, and now Braddock, with the Scottish henchman who's now flying the helicopter, they are crashing into the other ship, and we have people swinging from both sides, and Nate is trying to fight off everyone. And again, it's supposed to be a cool sequence, but it's just boring. So eventually, there's this weird part where Sully almost rammed into Braddock and the ship. So he lifted the helicopter and the ship up into the air. But at this time, Nate and the henchmen were in the air as well, and everything's in slow-mo, and there's no gravity or anything, and they were slowly falling down on the ship again, and Nate had to grab a rope, and the henchman eventually crashed into a rock, so he died. So yeah, that was a weird sequence. Anyway, so Nate had the idea to use gunpowder and use the cannon to fire at the Scottish henchman at the helicopter. So yeah, technically, I guess he killed 2 or 3 people with that cannon shot. And here's the thing. Nate did not get the gun until the final sequence. He finally gets a gun. He was fighting a henchman, and he knocked the henchman out, or killed him. I forgot which. So he sees the henchmen, he sees the gun holsters and one a handgun, so he decides to take it off of him and put him on himself, so now he looks like the Nathan Drake we know and love from the games. But he's a terrible shot. He keeps missing this one henchman, and I'm pretty sure he ran out of ammo at one point, so what was the point of the gun in the first place? Like, he didn't kill anyone with it. So again, I believe that people might say, oh, he never had gun training, so of course he would miss. But at the same time, we're like, so when would, so after this, Nathan is going to get gun training? Or has he ever killed a person before or something like that? I don't know. So at least with the cannon, he intentionally tried to kill people. But again, with the gun, he did absolutely nothing with it. So this movie was really, really safe. That's why I said it felt like a PG movie at times. So Braddock managed to escape at her ship. Her ship gets destroyed. She managed to get on top of Nate's ship, and she was fighting him with the knife. A karambit, I believe that's what the weapon was called. It's the one where it's like a sickle. So she tries to kill Nate, and Sully was flying the helicopter, but because Braddock let the anchor of the ship down, so it stopped everything, including the helicopter. So the helicopter is at a weird angle, so the book bag that Sully had that's filled with treasure is slowly getting off the helicopter. So Sully had to put it on autopilot, and he's trying to save the treasure, and then he sees Nate, and Nate's in trouble, so he's looking back and forth between the treasure and Nate, so he decides to throw the backpack full of treasure at Braddock, which knocks her off the ship, lands in the ocean, and at this point, she's still alive. So Sully is upset because he had to get rid of the treasure, and he tells Nate to grab his arm, so Nate did, and I guess the giant cable that's connecting the ship to the helicopter, it broke off because of the tension. So the ship fell down and it crashed on top of Braddock. And I believe she died because, it's one of those deaths, like someone looks up and they see something crashing down on them and then gone. That's it. So yeah, Braddock is dead, and it was a very lame death. So the ship eventually managed to sail for a little bit, and then it drowned. And it turns out that Nate actually snuck in some treasure in his pocket. So Sully actually is sort of got some treasure out of it. And there's this joke about a bubblegum, and then that was it. It cuts to the prison where Sam is actually being held in. I'm not sure if it's the same prison that Sam and Nate were in for Uncharted 4, but if I believe that's supposed to be the case because that happens before the events of Uncharted 1. So yeah, Sam was had like a long hair and a beard, and he's writing Nate a postcard about him being in trouble. So that was it for the main movie, and then it shows a bit of the end credits, and then we get to the mid-credit scene, where if you, and it's weird because the cast list happens right before the mid-credit scene, and it mentions the name Pilo Aspect. I'm not sure if I pronounced it right. This actor was from Ghost in the Shell. He's also from the movie Overlord, and I believe he's also from the Game of Thrones. So he has an eye patch, and he was talking with Nate about the ring, the Sic Parvis Magna ring, the Sir Francis Drake ring, and he's saying he was actually talking about Roman. Now, if you played the games, you know that Roman is actually one of the villains in Uncharted 1. Roman was the old guy who was trying to find the treasure, but he ends up getting crazy because of the infection from that weird mummified figure. So and Navarro tricked him into doing that. So yeah, that Roman. They're talking about that Roman. So they're trying to set up towards the events of Uncharted 1. So I guess in Uncharted 1, we're supposed to see Elena. That's what I believe. So that's what it's heading to. And then Sully breaks in, and he gets the mustache this time, and he actually had the cat with him the whole time. He's like, I'm never leaving Mr. Whiskers. So yeah, that's a weird thing too about the cat, because Sully never owned a cat in the games. And I don't think there was ever a cat reference in the games either, so this was just completely made up for the movie. And I'm not against cats. This cat looked adorable too, but at the same time, this is not a Sully thing. So yeah, right after that, Sully and Nate got captured, and that was the end of the movie. I checked on my cell phone, and I'm pretty sure there was no other end credit scene, so I basically left during the credits. So I didn't wait until the credits finished just to see if there's an extra scene. From what I can tell, it was just a mid-credit scene, and that was it for the movie. So yeah, that was my giant problem with the movie. Like, yes, at least this is not like Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, where it's filled with so many references to the games, but it messed them up completely. Here, yes, it has some references to the games, but it didn't piss me off as much as Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, or even the Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil movies. But it still pissed me off because it was not faithful to the games. They changed the origin of Sam and Drake, how he found the ring, how he found the necklace, how he meets up with Sully, and also how he got the journal. I don't understand why you have to change all that. Seriously, just keep it faithful to the games. It shouldn't be that freaking hard. And that's my problem with this movie. This movie should have either been a one-to-one recreation of the games, or have this story still be canon to the games. Like, the game story is canon, but you should do like an adventure that's not in the games. Like, if it takes place between when Nate meets up with Sully and they team up together, right before Nate and Sam get separated at the prison, if you do a movie between that timeline, I would have been fine with it, because there could have been, you could have done something with it. Like, Nate was learning the ropes. He learns how to kill someone with a gun. Sully taught him how to do that. Something like that, you know? I would have been fine with it. Or Nate eventually meets up with Chloe, because, again, that would make sense. I bought that in the movie, like, Nate would meet up with Chloe before the events of Uncharted 1, and And that was my problem too, because if this movie is supposed to lead to the events of Uncharted 1, and Elena is going to be introduced soon. And of course, everyone knows Nate gets with Elena, but Nate was supposed to be in a relationship with Chloe before he meets up with Elena. That was the whole point. That's why Elena was jealous the entire time. But Nate and Chloe never hooked up. They never slept together. They never had sex. They never kissed or anything. And I'm not saying like the movie needed that, but if you're trying to set up to the events of Uncharted 1, that had to happen already. Unless, you know, their relationship was platonic. They never had feelings towards each other. So that's why I'm at a loss. Like, this is something that you should have kept in the movie, but you decided not to. And that's the thing. Like I said, if this is like an adventure that was never told in the games, but the game story is still canon and this just happens between the games, I would have been fine with it. You could have done so much with that. Nate learning the ropes from Sully. He learns how to shoot a gun. He kills people. He meets up with Chloe. You could keep the whole Magellan treasure thing. You could also have Sam trying to get back with Nate also. You know, you have like the basis of an Uncharted movie, but the problem is because you changed the things about the characters, it sucks. So it still hurts. It may not be the worst adaptation of a video game, but it really sucks. I was hoping for this movie to be at least decent, but as a fan of Uncharted, no, this was really awful. And because of this, I'm really worried about how The Last of Us TV show is going to be. Is it going to be faithful to the game? Or are you going to add in your own bullshit? Or change everything about it? I don't know. I don't like it when people have to change things from the games. And again, you have to give a good reason to, like, okay, maybe this was a little too racist, or maybe this doesn't work in modern times. I would understand those things, you know, like, okay, I can understand why you have to change that, change this, change that. But no, it was already good. It was already solid in the games. Don't change that. I am not looking forward to a sequel for this movie. And I'm not saying I want this movie to bomb, because that's, because of the other workers in it. Like all the animators, all the people who made the special effects and stuff like that, they're not getting paid as well. So, yeah, I don't want it to bomb, you know? I don't want movies to bomb. But I am not looking forward to a sequel of this. And it's weird because even for Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, I'm curious about a sequel to that. Because, you know, would things be very different from the games? Which parts will be adapted from the games? Even though the movie was really, really bad, at least I'm still curious about a sequel. Here, I just don't want there to be a sequel. You know? You could have made a great movie based on Uncharted. And just, here's the thing, you're making a movie based on a video game. Make it like the video game. Not that hard. Don't spend all your time on freaking New York City. No one gives a shit about that. Nathan Drake and company go to all over the world, discovering the ruins. Shit goes to hell. Ruins are, things are falling from the skies and stuff like that. Nate has to slide down, jump up, you know, avoid obstacles and everything. And also fight off the bad guys and kill thousands of them too with his guns and stuff. That's Uncharted. The fact that this movie is like a very, 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 very safe Disney version of Uncharted, it sucks. Oh, God. Oh, boy. Well, that's it, guys. That's my movie talk of Uncharted. If you watched the movie, write down in the comments below. I'm actually curious to see if you actually like this movie or not. And again, I can say, like, from three different perspectives. If you're a fan of the games and you want to just see references and you don't care about the quality of the story, you might like this. If you like the National Treasure movies and you don't know anything about the games, you might also like this. If you're a fan of the games and you want a great movie, you're not getting it here. It's awful. So, That's my opinion. That's my movie talk. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Later.